If you ever had a lower back injury like a bulged or herniated disc and you were told that you shouldn't deadlift because it was dangerous, then you, my friend, have been shortchanged because you only got part of the story. And in fact, this video is made just for you. I'm Coach Jamie Driver from Overhaul Training, and in this video I'm going to show you how learning proper deadlifting technique can actually save you from future back injuries and help you be able to continue doing all the activities that you love. A couple of weeks ago, my friend Jay was moving bags of concrete, bent over to pick up a bag in a wrong way, and ended up on the floor. There was a loud pop, his back went out, next thing you know, he's got a herniated disc, he's at the emergency room, and in a lot of pain. Now, we've all heard of stories like that, but we've even heard of stories where people just bend over to pick up a pencil or a piece of paper, and the same thing happens. Me personally, I've fortunately never herniated a disc, but when I was a teenager, sometimes I'd get up in the morning, go to the bathroom, wash my face, and just leaning over the sink unsupported, going to wash it, my back would go out. Wouldn't pop, but I'd collapse down onto the counter and be like, what the heck gives? Now that was before I learned how to deadlift and strength train to keep myself in good alignment. But let's go a little bit further into detail about what actually happens in those situations, and then we can understand what you can do about it. Time for a quick anatomy review. This is how your disc works, all right? You essentially have this pocket of jelly between your vertebrae that keep them away from each other so that when you move around, they don't rub and they don't pinch on a nerve. And this pocket of jelly is surrounded by a fiber sheath that keeps everything in place. All right, let's walk through this. When you go ahead and bend over and bend forward, basically you're compressing the jelly in the front of the spine, which then puts a lot of pressure to the back of the disc. Now, if you go ahead and add a little bit of rotation to this, so you're going to bend over, but then you're rotating a little bit, you're now also taking the discs and rotating them, which means the fiber sheath that goes around it now has tension pulling on it. Now you have the pressure of the jelly pushing back, this tension of the rotation, and now let's just say you go ahead and pick something up, which now also adds compressive forces and adds more pressure pushing out the back. This is when people have problems and you hear a loud pop, which basically means that sheath just went. Now, it could end up being just a bulge disc, which means there was just a partial tear in the sheath and it's kind of bubbling out, kind of like a weak spot in a hose. And if you had a herniated disc, it means it went ahead and fully tore and now the jelly's squishing out the back. Not pretty. And if you've actually had this, you might be wincing right now as I describe it. So, what do we do about it? Here we go. So this is usually around the time where you're talking to your doctor because you're in pretty bad shape and in a lot of pain. And at first, the main thing you want to do is just kind of let it heal, be able to stand up and walk and move. So they might give you anything from painkillers to anti-inflammatories to just go home and rest. And then the next thing that you might talk to them about is like, well, what can I do about this? And you might talk about exercise and whatnot. And a lot of professionals will tell you, do not deadlift. And this is only partially right, I think. I think in the sense that it's correct is if you don't know how to do a deadlift properly, and you probably don't because you hurt yourself already, then don't go ahead and start trying to figure it out and just pretending that you know what you're doing and go beat the crap out of your back any further because you're probably just going to make the injury worse and take it to the next level. So that is great advice. But like I said, it's only part of it because what you really should be doing is finding someone to teach you how to deadlift. And then therefore what I mean is how to hip hinge. Because if you don't learn how to do this properly and you just say I'm never going to practice, then what you're essentially saying is I'm not going to learn how to do things differently in the future and I'm going to open myself up to re-injuring it the next time I go to pick up something off the floor. Or you can be like, okay, I'm never going to put myself in this position and therefore I'm going to shut off my life, I'm going to be bedridden, I'm never going to pick something up, never going to move, never going to do a sport, never going to live. And if that's your attitude, then I don't know what you're doing on my website because I'm all about living, baby. So here's what I recommend. You find someone to teach you how to hip hinge properly so that you learn how to stabilize your trunk and use your hips rather than bending your spine, right? So really, quite often when people say you shouldn't go deadlift, what they're really saying is you shouldn't go to the gym and pretend to deadlift, but really do repetitive back bends and essentially keep bending over and causing that issue. because that's what a lot of people do. Instead, what I'm saying is you should learn how to hip hinge and then therefore learn how to deadlift. And that means stabilizing the spine, use the hips, and learn how to safely get down to the ground to pick things up so you can protect your back. I look at this as not exercise. You're not going to the gym to get sweaty and raise your heart rate. You're going there for training. You're training your body to move in a better, more stable way so that you can have a rich life of activity without always having to be fearful that you're going to hurt your back. Now that I've spent all this time and energy emphatically convincing you guys that you need to learn how to deadlift in order to prevent future lower back injuries, I'd be a bit of a jerk if I just said sayonara and left you guys hanging there, wouldn't I? So this is what I did. I went ahead and created a free download called 4 Steps to a Safe Deadlift. It's free. You can look right below the video. There's a hyperlink. Click it. Give me your email and I'll send it to your inbox. I'm Coach Jamie Dry. If you got any further questions on the subject, just drop it down there in the comments box and I'll see you on the flip side.